What does the discovery of Nigeria's largest ever methamphetamine laboratory tell us about the changing nature of the global drug trade? Well, the facility, uncovered in May, led to the arrest of 10 suspects. They included 3 Mexican nationals. Now, the case is raising questions about whether international drug cartels are expanding their footprint in West Africa and whether they could have broader security implications, including possible links with insurgents and bandits operating in northern Nigeria. Now, we begin with the meth lab itself. Hidden deep inside a forest, investigators said they seized more than 2.5 tons of methamphetamine and the chemicals used to produce it. A haul, authorities say, could translate into hundreds of millions of euros or dollars worth of street doses. Now, the lab has since been dismantled. Our West Africa correspondent Azizat Olaoluwa will take us inside the alleged site of operations. And in an extraordinary court session, she joined court officials and investigators at the remote forest location where the facility was uncovered, gaining rare access to the evidence.
Tucked away deep inside a forested area, this is the largest industrial-scale meth laboratory ever uncovered in the country. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, discovered it in Nigeria's southwest Ogun State. It was a tough journey to get to this meth lab, which is located deep inside a forest in the middle of nowhere, more than 2 hours' drive from Lagos. I have seen rows of industrial mixers, bags of caustic soda and large drums of chemicals. It was recently built, and we understand that the suspects were allegedly producing the first batch of drugs when they were arrested. 7 Nigerians and 3 Mexicans were arrested, and they have been charged. The agency said it seized more than 2.4 tons of chemicals, many of them volatile and highly poisonous. Behind me, you can see some of the machines that were used to process the drugs. We have been told not to get too close to them because toxic chemicals are still stored inside, and I can perceive an unpleasant metallic odor in the air. And the NDLEA also netted crystal meth worth more than 300 million euros.
The volume of what was recovered here, that's enough to cause a lot of issues, public health issues, security challenges, not only in our country, Nigeria, but even in the sub-region.
In a rare move, the NDLEA took the court officials, the suspects, and the media to the clandestine facility for a special court hearing. I'm sure the 3 Mexicans just right behind me, who have now been tagged suspects in the alleged production of large-scale meth in Nigeria, did not expect this moment will ever come in their lives. They have been brought back to the alleged scene of the crime, and a court hearing will take place here for the exhibits to be assessed and taken into evidence. The suspects have pleaded not guilty to all charges against them.
The defendants are charged for being in possession of methamphetamine. But what they succeeded in showing us today is the process of production, not production itself, not the end product.
A second meth lab was busted barely 4 weeks after this facility was shut down in May, with 1 Mexican among the suspects arrested. But this is just one recent discovery. The NDLEA told DW it uncovered the first meth lab in 2016, evidencing early attempts to transfer production expertise to local partners. Since then, the agency has dismantled up to 30 of such labs in the country. This has raised concerns that transnational drug cartels from Latin America are turning Nigeria from a single transit route for drugs to a production hub for international markets. The latest World Drug Report by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, shows that meth production took root in West Africa in the early 2010s, particularly in Nigeria. It notes that meth from West and Central Africa mainly supplies other markets. The NDLEA says international drug cartels are now focused on setting up labs in the country's southwest, a region close to the seacoast.
It's a challenge the agency has risen up to ensure that we don't allow them to have a hold, not only in the southwest, but in the entire country.
Recently, the U.S. Africa Command's statement that there is a growing connection between international drug cartels and terrorism in West Africa indicates a multi-layered threat for Nigeria.
The relationship between cartels and drug use and terrorism is very, very symbiotic. What they do is the terrorists give the cartels protection, while the cartels give the terrorists financing. We have porous borders. We have a large part of our forests ungoverned. We also have a situation where you have cheap labor. And once you see that, and also the transatlantic route for their shipping.
The judge and prosecution have agreed that this crystal meth lab will be dismantled, but the concerns it raises are still present. Although authorities say they are intensifying the fight against organized criminal drug networks, one question remains unanswered. How many more clandestine facilities like this are operating undetected in Nigeria and elsewhere in the continent?
Olumayowa Olani is a researcher in Abuja who has written about the illicit drug trade in Nigeria. I asked him why he describes the country as a haven for drug cartels from Latin America.
Before we started with the drug cartels, we've always spoken in Nigeria, we've always discussed on the ungoverned spaces. We have a lot of places, we have a lot of forest area in the country that is ungoverned. And this provides the fertile ground, the opportunity for drug cartels or for any other crime to happen there. Let me tell you that before we started seeing cartels in these deep forests, we know that these are deep forest houses, terrorist organization, if it's ISWAP, if it's Boko Haram, if it's JNIM, any of them, you will find them in these places because that place is so large and it gives them opportunity to do their business with nobody knowing. And that's why we call it ungoverned spaces, because there's no form of governance there. So it provides them the opportunity to do their business. And I can tell you for quick example, like the one in Ogun State, the meth lab that was busted in Ogun State, it was very deep in the forest, where it's outside of the purview of governance. I want to believe that before you will see the closest police station to that particular place, which is the form of governance we're talking about, it can take you more than 4 kilometers. It can take you more than 5 to 10 kilometers. So this gives these guys opportunity to do their business with little or no check, with nobody checking them, with nobody even knowing that they are there. So Nigeria provides such. And again, if I follow the theory I mentioned earlier about crime displacement, you will see that because they also know that we have weak laws. There are gaps in our laws. There are gaps. And for a country who is welcoming to investment, we welcome everybody. We welcome anybody without necessarily carrying out the due diligence on them to know what their intention is for coming into the country. So these has given opportunity to these guys to do the kind of business that they're doing.
You talked about the armed insurgencies that Nigeria is also battling with, and you talked about the fact that they typically need the same conditions, right? Ungoverned spaces where they can operate off the radar, so to say. But has any other link emerged between these groups and the drug networks?
Well, what we have seen so far, especially if you look at the level of arrest or the number of arrests that has been made in the northeastern part of the country, in the northeastern part of Nigeria, where you have the insurgency, you see that there's a high usage of drugs, of synthetic drugs along that corridor. And again, this shows the nexus, the connection. But coming to where you have this meth lab, recently there was an abduction in Oyo State, the southwestern part of the country. There was an abduction of school students there. And one of the things that I was arguing in that article is to say that if you have an armed group having a connection with a drug fund, it is a higher risk for the country. It poses a more severe danger to the very fragile security that we have in Nigeria. It's just as simple as that, because what you have now is that you have funds that these insurgents can use to buy ammunition, to buy weapons, that they can use to inflict pain on the country, like what we've been facing in the country for over a decade. So basically, it's to argue or it's to state that the connection between the two is there until the government, or unless the government finds something to do about it to ensure that that doesn't happen. And again, what we have seen so far, I'm trying to link something here. What we have seen before is that most of the insurgency or most of the crisis and terrorism that we have has been on the northern part of the country, but we have started to see a steady move towards the south, where this meth lab was actually busted. So again, what we are finding, or what we are confronting right now, is the possibility of having both the meth lab, the drug, and of course the insurgents merging together in that part of the country, and it's just going to be very catastrophic, more than whatever we have seen before in the past decade.
So are the drugs fueling the conflict?
Yes. Yes, it's a very heavy connector, the drug and, of course, the conflict. Most of the crimes, most of the atrocities that these guys have done so far in the country, it goes beyond normal imagination. It beats imagination if you see the kind of atrocities that have been committed by these guys. And it will take somebody who is very high on such drugs, on meth, to do, or any kind of synthetic drugs whatsoever, to do those kind of things. And what you will see, you can check online, you will see so many arrests of dealers in tramadol, any of those products, which they take straight where these insurgents actually stay, especially in the northeast of the country. So there's a very strong connector between drugs and the crisis that we have in the country.
Right. And is there any indication of how many other crystal meth labs might be in Nigeria?
We don't know. We don't know. But we know that there will be others. After the reported one in Ogun, there's Oyo in Ibarapa. There's another not too far away from Oyo, is very close to Ogun. So there was another one that was busted in Ogun, not as big in terms of the size, not as big as that of Ogun, but it's there. And that simply shows that there could be other labs across the country. We've only seen these ones, and we are talking about these ones. I think the unique thing about this Ogun, the one in Ogun State, is because of the size, 2.4 tons. So it's the size. And you can imagine if a production of meth that can run to like 460 billion naira, like over 300 million US dollars, can be in a single location, you can just imagine the possibility of having such scattered across the country. And again, because of the other one, which was busted not too long after the one in Ogun State, in Oyo State, shows that there could be, the possibility is very high, the chances are there that there will be other labs across the country.
Well, fascinating stuff. Oluma Yowa Olani, thanks so much for your insights there, helping us understand this particular development in Nigeria. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.